Well, good evening, friends. So glad that you could join us tonight. My name is Chris Streeter, and I have the pleasure of serving as the Canon for Mission Development and Innovation here in the Diocese of Central Pennsylvania. And on behalf of Bishop Scanlon and the rest of the diocesan staff, I am thrilled to welcome you to this first of our 5-part Shaped by Faith series celebrating our stories. I'm thrilled to be joined tonight by 2 members of our diocesan staff. We've got Carolyn Patterson. Carolyn, do you want to unmute and say hello?
Hi, everyone. I'm Carolyn. I'm Bishop Scanlon's assistant, and I'm very happy to be here this evening.
And I'm also thrilled that we're joined by our very special guest and presenter tonight, Debbie Roblin. How are you doing there, Debbie?
Hello, I'm doing very well. Thank you, Chris. Glad to be here.
Wonderful. So glad that the 2 of you can be here tonight. I'd love to open us with the collect for Shaped by Faith tonight, my friends. The Lord be with you.
And also with you.
Let us pray. God of wisdom and love, in whom we find our joy. Help us to listen for your word and to discern your way forward for our church. Give us the insight to hold on to what is true, the courage to explore new ideas, and the boldness to create with you. Let us be shaped by faith for your mission through Jesus Christ, our Lord, who lives and reigns with you in the Holy Spirit, one God, forever and ever. Amen. Well, friends, our focus for tonight is on creating a parish archive. One of the tenets we hold on to in our Shaped by Faith program, as many of us are looking to explore and discern and plan intentional change and transformation in our faith communities. We want to make sure that as we are planning for the future, any of that work and ministry of transformation is rooted in our shared history. And so our friend Debbie is going to share with us some tools. Maybe some of you have begun this work of starting to dig into the history of your parishes. And maybe for some of you, this is the first time that you've considered beginning digging intentionally into the history of your community. So Debbie's going to provide us with some tools. Before we get going, Debbie, I wonder if we can put the spotlight on you for a minute and you can talk to us a little bit about what it is that really kind of inspired you to begin digging into this work and ministry of archiving. So can you tell us a little bit about Debbie's history?
Sure. I started this work about maybe 10 or 11 years ago. I took over for a longtime archivist. Her name was Jennifer Railing. And in order to understand what I was doing, I basically started from the very beginning. I had to figure things out. I went to workshops. I had to learn the vocabulary of archiving just to make sure that I was really on track and doing things right. And I think, honestly, the reason I was asked to do it is because I am an OCD organizer. And anybody who knows me knows that that's true. So I was the receptionist, and anytime I saw something that needed to be straightened, or someone would say, would you come into my office and help me with these files? I was more than glad to do it. So I sort of segued into it. Now, I don't work in the archives alone. I have, obviously the diocesan staff is here, and that gives me a lot of the backup and support that I need. And also, if I need something, I just ask for it. So I sort of fell into this. I'm not a trained archivist, and I think this is going to be helpful, because then if you're listening, the truth is you can do this too, because if I can do it, then I think you can do it.
Well, thank you so much,
Sure.
Debbie. So friends, we're gonna, Debbie and Carolyn and I are gonna have a little bit of a conversation tonight. We've prepared some topics to talk about that we hope will be of interest to you as we move along. Those of you who are with us live on the webinar on this beautiful Wednesday night, feel free, if you like, to put some questions in either the Q&A function. If you haven't used Zoom webinar before, there should be a button right below that says Q&A, or you can even put things in the chat function, and we will monitor that. And as time permits, hopefully we can also try to play Stump the Archivist and put some of your, oh no, you don't like that, Debbie?
Yeah, don't play that
All
game,
right,
but
all right.
I will say I have Carolyn Patterson here, and she is my partner in crime. So anything I can't answer, I'm just gonna bat it over to her.
She's your lifeline. That's good.
Yeah.
We should all have a lifeline. That's good.
Exactly right.
So feel free, friends, as we move along tonight, to put questions in the chat. But to kick us off, Debbie, I mean, I guess the big question, it seems to me, especially if I'm in a parish that hasn't really intentionally begun doing this work, can we start with kind of the big question? Why is it important for us to really cultivate in an intentional way and gather together our parish history? Can you talk to some of the why for us?
Sure. I think by collecting and preserving your historical documents, the parish's identity is going to be shown. You're going to see along the way how your church has grown, how your church has changed. In order to do that, though, in order to start that parish history, which is so important, it's very important to Bishop Scanlon, and it's very important to Shaped by Faith, you're going to have to start somewhere. So you're going to be collecting documents and items. You're going to be organizing those items, and then you're going to learn how to preserve them and put them somewhere so that in the future, someone can easily put their hands on a document that would give them information about your church. Each church in our diocese has a really unique identity. They all have a place that they came from, a story, and they're all different, and they really are very interesting. So I think that because you do want to tell your parish story, then somehow you're going to have to get organized. And tonight, I hope that we're going to be able to give you some of the tools to do that. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was right off the bat, if you're going to start an archive, you should start by creating a policy statement. And we have this on a slide. So this is very much like a mission statement. So you can read it, and it tells you the purpose of the archives and what exactly the archivist or archive committee is being asked to do. The other thing that I think is important about this is that it calls the vestry and your rector into some responsibility for seeing this happen. Now, not every parish has the means to own a fancy digital camera or the fanciest of archival supplies, but that's really not what we're talking about. We're just talking about you're going to get a space, you're going to start collecting your documents, and you're going to do the best you can. But I think that this mission statement or policy statement makes the archives more official. I also think that as you begin to create this statement, you're going to be working, it's sort of like a skeleton document. You're going to be working with basic headings And then as you go along, it's going to get deeper and deeper and deeper. So tonight, all we want to do is say that we're going to get started, and we're going to let people in the parish know that it's important. The vestry needs to know that it's important. The rector needs to know that it's important. And this document is hopefully going to do that.
Thank you for that, Debbie. That's really helpful. And, I'm also struck. So as we've invited parish teams into our Shape by Faith program, and I'm not even sure if you and I have talked about this, Debbie, but the very first focus that we ask folks to do a deep dive into is their identity. We really feel pretty strongly that any reshaping, any intentional partnering or collaborating, the main tier, the foundational layer is that layer of identity. So anything we build is rooted there. And I really like the idea of this exercise, and this ministry of archiving is a way of kind of uncovering the identity of your community.
Right, and that's what you're going to find, and it's so interesting. Who wouldn't want to do it?
Yeah, one of the theologians that I like a lot, he talks about us being detectives of divinity, and I like that. Sometimes, there is this work that we're called to do. Sometimes that identity isn't always apparent, and it's not until we're willing to roll up our sleeves and dig in a little bit and recognize that so much of who we are and what we value is built on those who have come before us.
That's so true. So true.
So we've talked a little bit then about the why, my friend. I wonder, all right, so I'm on board. I've talked to my rector. Vestry has given me a charge to begin kind of handling these sacred artifacts and documents. They give me a key to some closet that nobody has gone into for a while, and it creaks its way open, and I've just got the pile, and I hope that it doesn't avalanche on top of you, right? But so now I've got the pile. How do I begin this? How do I kind of start to kind of do the sifting and identify, well, what things do I want to keep? And can you give me some tips on how you begin?
Yes, and I think what you said, Chris, is actually funny, but it's so true. This is what you're going to run up against. You're going to run up against disorganized file folders. You're going to run up against dirty boxes. You'll open the box and there might be a few folders on top, but when you take the folders away, it's full of junk. You're going to have to start somewhere. So you're going to have to identify where might you find these records, and that would be possibly in a basement, possibly in an attic, which are two bad places to have records. And the third place that you might want to look is in your staff, in their personal file cabinets, but do not look in somebody's file cabinet unless you have the permission to do so. A lot of times people will move into an office and they inherit a file cabinet and they never take the files out. So, 3/4 of those files might be junk, and then there might be some that are really valuable. So actually, what are you looking for? What documents are documents that are worth you taking the time to sort and save and preserve? And I have a list, and I'm just going to read off a few things. Legal docs like wills, bylaws, incorporation papers, and trust documents. We have all of those here in our diocesan office. Things like membership directories, newsletters, vestry minutes, committee minutes, audit reports, annual meeting reports and minutes. That could be very, very important because it sort of gives you a snapshot of the year and what kind of outreach the parish was involved in. And you know, parishes have their ups and downs. Parishes have terrible things happen to them, and they have wonderful things happen to them. So all of this should be recorded. The other thing to remember is property. And you want to keep any architectural documents or blueprints. Let's see, you want to, if anything was constructed, if you had an addition put on, or let's say that you renovated the columbarium area. Well, that's very important. Maybe a bench was given in memory of a parishioner. These are things that you're going to uncover, and they're important to know. The other thing you're going to find are artifacts, and these are objects. These are things like framed art, vestments, altar vessels like a chalice, and so forth. Now, in the resource section, we're going to give you all the information on how to handle each one of these particular objects and how to preserve them for the future. Here at the diocese, we have 5 quilts. They are large quilts. 2 of them, when I started, were hung on the wall with these very nice brackets that held them up. So I took those quilts down and I made sure that they were clean, and I got the other quilts together. I studied them to see what was on them and why they were created. One was created for Bishop Stevenson. I believe it was for an anniversary celebration. So I carefully took them down, made sure they were clean. I actually folded them into an archival tissue paper. All right, so now it's all enclosed in this tissue paper. And then I have an archive box. So each one of those quilts now is cared for in a box, and it's labeled. And I actually put some information on the outside of the box, so that I actually took a picture of the quilt so that we know what it is. And you never know what you're going to find, and you never really know what you're going to end up with. So one of the things that might happen is that as word gets out that you're doing this, you might get parishioners coming to you with items. Now, they might have old membership directories, they might have old bulletins. These are things that, thank you very much, you need to have that. Other things you might not need, a personal baptism certificate, for instance, or a little bulletin from somebody's wedding might not be something you'd want. But I'll give you an example of something we have at St. Stephen's in the archives, and I also work over there with them doing some organization. We have I guess it's an 8x10. It's a black and white photo, and it was taken by a wedding photographer. Now, this is actually a photo that would have been in somebody's wedding album. The photograph is a straight-on picture of the altar. It's decked in lilies. It's absolutely stunning. Now, why would that be important? This particular photo, I think, dates back to the 1940s. I think it might even be older than that. But as you look at it, you can see the changes that have been made at St. Stephen's since that time. So yes, this photograph, it's like, thank you very much. We have to identify it on the back. We have to record who gave it to us. We have to preserve it, and then we put it away. But now a little bit later, we're going to talk about how we would actually research items, but you have no idea how interesting the process is. We have these little postcards at the cathedral that date back to the mid 19th century. And if you would see what St. Stephen's looked like then, it's absolutely nothing like it looks like now. And you can see that the side chapel was not there. The area where the organ sits was not there. So these are all things that that play into your collection. So I just want to warn you that people are probably going to start giving you things. Some of these things might be precious and wonderful, and some of them might be things that it's better that the parishioner keeps and not so much you. So Chris, I had 2 slides for identifying some records to keep. The first one is a photograph. It's slide number 2, and it's a photograph of St. John's Choir, and the photograph was from 1924.
Yeah, if I can, Debbie, I'm going to put that right up.
Okay.
We did have one question
Okay.
from Joan saying that she loves everything you've been saying, but is wondering if a list might be made available. So just for any of y'all who are with us tonight,
Yes.
and those who may be viewing this later, in addition to this video on our diocesan website, you'll see a list of resources. So Debbie's is kindly making that available to you. So thank you ahead of time for doing that.
Perfect.
Debbie. And also, friends,
Perfect.
we have several folks who have joined us tonight. If you do have a moment, even if you don't have a question for Debbie right this minute, I would invite you to go ahead in that Q&A. Tell us who you are and what parish you're representing, and that can also give us a sense of who's with us on the webinar tonight.
Great.
And with that said, Debbie,
Yeah.
here I think is the slide that you were talking about.
Right. So the photograph is, as you see, it's the choir from Huntingdon. Now, luckily, somebody was very, very kind and put all of the information on the back of this photograph. And I also took a picture of the back of the photograph as well. So right now we have, in 1924, we have the rector, we have the choir director, we have the organist, and we have the choir. I'm not familiar with the interior of St. John's Church in Huntingdon, but I would guess that architecturally it might not look like this now. Like I said, it's very lucky that someone did identify everybody on the back of the photograph, but that obviously is something that would need to be saved. The next slide is something that all of our parishes have, and this is the Parish Register. Now, this is in my closed parish collection, and this book is somewhat fragile. The binding is coming apart. But interestingly enough, when you open the book, loose papers fall out. And in there, in those loose papers were handwritten notes. And one, as I said, I think one of them referred to a legal matter within the parish. But what I wanted to show you was that the next slide is a handwritten history of this church in Fallbrook. Now, this is the next one. This is just a partial photograph. I didn't actually capture the entire document. And this is the bond, the Wardens of Bangor Church to Edward Davies, in the amount of $618.72, and it's dated 1833. The interesting thing on the back are all the calculations. And in May of 1838, then in April of 1838, it will tell you exactly how much money was owed. So, and again, this particular document is quite fragile. And you can even see where it was folded. Now, if I can unfold something very carefully and preserve it flat, then I will do it. In this case, I was able to do it. There are old deeds that we have that are so brittle that I dare not, at this point, open them. I have preserved them, but I haven't opened them to actually look at them, because sometimes you'll touch old paper and literally the corner will come off. It gets that brittle with age. So these were just a couple of slides to show you records that you have to keep. And the one, of course, that is most important in all of this is your parish register. At St. Stephen's at the cathedral, we found the original parish register, and in the front is a handwritten history. It talks about the parcel of land. Now, some of it, it's very difficult to read because it's almost calligraphy and it's in that beautiful pen writing. But as I'm saying, you know, these things are priceless. So every parish will have parish registers, and you should be able to put your finger on them, and they should be in a safe, place. So,
Debbie,
yeah, go ahead.
I just had a interesting contribution in the Q&A from Betty Ann Quinn at St. John's, from St. John's
Yeah.
Huntington. And she said that photograph is actually taken outside the church.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, so
So
another
she-
piece of information to add.
Hello, Betty Ann. Betty Ann is working very hard at St. John's in Huntington to get their parish history together. And she is someone that I bounce things back and forth with often. She and a couple other people did come and visit me at one time to look through some of St. John's documents, but she has a way of getting a thread and just digging deeper and deeper and deeper. So thank you, Betty Ann.
And just to tease it out, in a few weeks, actually on Wednesday, May 19th, we're going to have the chance to explore and hear a little bit about the parish archives at St. John's Huntington and also at St. James Lancaster. And thank you to you, Debbie, for setting up and providing those contacts so we can get a little bit more of a sense of how two particular parishes in our diocese are going about this ministry.
That's great.
So once, Debbie, you've kind of identified then, all right, so I've gone through some of the closet and I've identified some things, and I've recognized that I want to preserve them in an intentional way. I wonder if you could talk a little bit after we've identified, how do we go about then really preserving these records in an intentional and professional way?
Okay. Very simply, I want to say right off that yes, you're going to have all these boxes, and yes, you're going to have all these folders, but it's very important to note that when you have a folder, just make sure that the pages within it are what is marked on the outside of the folder, but do not take the time to go through every single piece of paper. That is for later. Right now, you are collecting your documents. We're going to learn next how to put them in order, but you're really not interested in, because you will, I promise you, you will get lost and hours will go by because you're going to be reading stuff and you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that. So just we're dealing with a folder right now, and we're dealing with a box. So preservation of records. I think the first thing you need to know about is digitization. And the field of digitization is vast. There are ever-changing digitization methods, requirements, or, this is required, and techniques. I would say that you need to do your homework and you need to get it specifically to fit your church. If you have a scanner, not all churches have a digital camera, but here, I'm lucky here at the diocese because Carolyn helps me. Chad Linder is very tech savvy and I'm constantly asking him questions. But you're going to need to have some knowledge of computers and scanners and software. What kind of software you're going to be using. But we're scanning these documents. And the reason we're doing this is it's going to preserve it safely. But the other thing is, if someone says at St. Stephen's Cathedral, I would like to see the charter, you pull it right up for them. You don't have to go and dig it out of a box and handle it again. Then somebody can look at it. So you have to understand what your parish, what means you're working with, and really go from there. There's a book that we're going to offer at the end. And this is Archives for Congregations, a practical guide to developing the church archives, the National Episcopal Historians and Archivists. And it is unbelievable the information you'll get in there. The other thing that you need to consider is space, where you're going to put your archives. It doesn't need to be a big space, but it needs to be clean. It needs to be dry. It can't have fluctuating temperatures, extreme heat, extreme cold. It can't have moisture. These things are going to break down your documents. You do not want any of those conditions. The other thing, of course, you don't want are insects and rodents. And I have taken workshops and I have seen where mice have gone wild in archives and have chewed through boxes. And for some reason, that's just what they do. And they take things away and store them somewhere. And okay, the other thing we need to talk about quickly is basic supplies, which you're going to need in front of you after or while you're collecting all these boxes. So Chris, slide number 5 is going to show us a few of those supplies that we're going to be looking at. Okay. So the first thing, I'm going to go to the right, and that's the acid-free and lignin-free folders. And in the center, there is a very official looking metal edge archive box. These are not necessary, people. They're somewhat expensive. I had several boxes given to me by another archivist, and I have made use of them. This one has a scrapbook that was given to us by Bishop Darlington's family. So acid-free and lignin-free, you're going to see this when anything says that it is archival quality. I guess I'm not really sure what lignin is, but I think it has to do with what they're using to actually make the folder, what they're using to actually make the box. So when you get something from Amazon and you have that box, no, that is not the box you want to use. That box was probably meant to be recycled. You are going to be looking for archival quality products. At the end, I'm going to share with you a list of products that you can easily get, where you can get them, and then how you can eventually use them. Now on the far left, these are things I just took a picture up in our archives to give you a little example. The clear photo sleeves, in this case, it's an 8x10. They come in all different sizes. The 100% cotton gloves. The old parish registers, they have some kind of a red fuzzy dust on them. It's kind of a rust color. It will get on your clothes. It will get on your hands. The other thing is, if you are handling old photographs or old documents, you don't want anything that's on your fingers, even I guess the oils that we can transfer onto objects, you don't want any of that to get on the archive documents. Photograph marking. The photograph marking pencil is one of my favorites. This one is red. I have a blue one. I have a black one. if you flip a photograph over, you know it has like a film on it. And if you try to write on that with a pencil, it just doesn't work. You never, ever use ink pen in the archives. Never. Never mark anything with an ink pen, ever. You use a number 2 pencil. And in this case, this particular photograph marking pencil, which you could get at an art supply store. Heck, you could probably even find it at Michael's. For all I know, they have the archival quality photo sheets as well. The other thing that's very important is the staple extractor. Now, it's not a staple remover. I have one in my desk. I'm not sure where it is, but you know the one I mean, the clippy one where you put it in and you yank the staple out. You can't do that. This actually has a beveled edge, and you slip it underneath the staple, and you unhook the one side, unhook the other side, then flip the document over, slip this into the staple, and it comes out. If you rip that staple out, trust me, if it's an old document, you're going to have a problem on your hands. So you're going to be removing things like staples, paper clips, binder clips, rubber bands, old tape. Interestingly enough, if you get an old document and it has been taped, chances are that as soon as you pick that up, that tape is going to fall off. But you don't want to preserve anything. So as I was saying before, as you're collecting documents, you're probably going to see that these documents have been put together with staples and paper clips and things like that. Now, I have documents from the 19th century that I've handled that were actually put together with a very long straight pin. And I guess that was a thing. The problem is now the straight pin is all rusted, and some of that rust is now on the paper. Old legal documents, they would have the legal document, and then there would be a cover sheet that you could kind of fold back. At the top, they use these metal, they look like metal rivets, and they are a dickens to get out. But it's important that before you actually store these documents, that you get rid of all the materials like staples and paper clips. I did something recently with a photograph album that we had. It was from Bishop McNutt. It was full of 5x7 photographs, and it was in one of those adhesive back photo albums. So if I were to put a photo in, I open the clear plastic, slap the photo on, close the clear plastic. Well, I can tell you that the clear plastic probably, or the adhesive probably looked great at one time. It turned yellow and it was very brittle. And these photographs literally just popped off the page. So what did I do with them? I flipped them over. I identified them with my photo marking pencil. And then I put them in photo sleeves. And instead of the 8x10 photo sleeve, I had a photo sleeve that had 2 slots for 5x7 photos. So these particular photo sleeves were for a 3-ring binder. Now, 3-ring binder is also a no-no in the archives. They have to be dismantled. But this 3-ring binder I got through an archival supply, and it's a box, and you open the box, and the 3-ring binder is in the box. So I placed the new stack of my photographs in the new box, close the 3-ring binder, and then I close the box. Now everything's identified. The other important thing to remember is that when I dismantled the photo album, I made sure that I took the photos, I took care of the photos, but I put them back in the new photo album exactly as they were stored in the old photo album. It's important to keep structure and order of the original document. I have yearbooks upstairs from, this is probably the 40s or the 50s, that have just written pages, all kinds of things, photographs, all kinds of things. And they were in really nasty 3-ring binders that had aged terribly. Now I took that apart, restored the photographs and the pages, but I put it back exactly as it was, and I tied it. And the other thing you can do is slip acid-free and lignin-free paper between those photographs. You don't have to go to the extreme of getting all these plastic photo sleeves. It's just that I happen to have them here. And so I use them. Again, this might be something you could find at a place like Michael's or Staples. You don't have to go to one of the larger fancy archive stores. So as you can see, it's something that you're going to have to spend some money, but I will tell you that these things are available in places other than the big archival online stores. I use Archival Methods. I guess the king of all archiving supplies, it's called Gaylord. I haven't really purchased anything from them, but you're going to be able to get these supplies, a minimal amount of these supplies, and start work immediately. When I worked at the cathedral, I just immediately asked the dean, Amy, if I could have a box of archival quality file folders. And before I knew it, I had them. And I've been, since the pandemic, I haven't really been working over there, but it was great. And that's what you need. You need your rector to say, this is so important that I'm going to buy you a box of folders, and it's going to be great.
Thank you, Debbie. Debbie, we had a couple questions that I think around preservation. Carolyn, did you notice a specific question or
Yes.
two?
There was a couple. First of all, there's a couple of people have asked, what about fireproof safes, especially for parish registers?
Oh, yes. And we actually have one here that is holding our, we have every year we have a diocesan convention, and then we have a diocesan journal. Well, that journal has to be signed and certified with a seal. So we have these official diocesan journals. Now, we've had our diocesan journals scanned, I realize that, but yes, if it's possible for you to do that, I would say that's very important. I was going to say, maybe somebody else has a fireproof cabinet or something you can use, but then you sort of lose the, you're putting your things off site. That's another idea, though. You can use, you could probably use one of these off-site storage places. I don't know how expensive they are, but depending on how deep you want to get with your preservation, that's an option.
I have another question. You'd mentioned a locked archive, and the question is, if you're keeping your archives locked, when someone wants to access the archives, are some things only seen under your supervision?
Well, when I went to take the workshops at the state archives, the way they said to approach the archives was, when somebody comes in, they're supposed to just leave everything at your desk. They empty their pockets, they take their coat off, they leave their pocketbook, their briefcase, whatever. And then you take them to the archives and you show them what they're doing. The way I handle it is, if someone comes to the office, for instance, I had someone come to look at any documents that we might have that dealt with race, anti-racism, any of our parishes, so on and so forth. So I had about a week, and I gathered those particular materials, and I set her up in a place where she and I could have a dialogue. I think at the state archives, what they were saying was like, if you had like a sports archive, how easy it would be for someone to walk away with, like, whatever, something that they might want that is probably worth a lot of money. Now, here at the diocese, our archive room is not locked. And Carolyn or Chad or anyone who wants to go in and take a file, yes, they do that, but they also leave me a nice note. For instance, Robin, being the dean of the Stevenson School for Ministry, we did a thorough background check of exactly when this school started, the School for Christian Studies anyway. And she took some files. So I know that she has them, but you have to have some sort of security. As I said, I've never had someone from the outside come in and I took them up to the archive room and said, hey, find whatever you're looking for. Now, Carolyn, she's been in and out, and if she needs a priest file or if she needs a journal or whatever she's looking for, she goes up and gets it, but she tells me exactly what she took, when she took it, and I know that it will be given back to me. So I think when I said locked before, I was referring to going into somebody's office and just starting to look through their files. You just probably don't want to do that.
Sure, that makes good sense, Debbie. Your example of someone calling you up and asking you to put together records on a specific topic, I think kind of leads to a next question that at least I would have for you is, all right, so I've identified some materials I want to preserve. I've done the work of preserving them in an intentional and professional way, but then the next step is I want to be able to access them.
You have to find them.
So are there, again, if I'm starting from scratch in particular, are there kind of tips that you can share that can kind of lead to easy retrieval?
Yes.
down the road?
Now, I will tell you that this book that I referred to before, they spell it all out, and they give you all kinds of examples. And slide number 6, if we could just look at that while I'm trying to explain what the classification system of archive records. This is used by archivists. Well, this is a system that's most used by archivists. Let me just say that. Now, we just simply say this is St. Anne's Episcopal Cathedral Archive Classification. We start with major headings. And some of these I've done over at St. Stephen's. Records of the Cathedral Dean. So I would have records concerning Amy Wellen, for instance, when she started, special services, photographs, sermons, things like that. Those would become your subheadings. Records of the cathedral. And
Debbie, I'll just warn you that Amy Wellen's Amy's on the webinar right now. So just, you've been warned.
Well, Amy's very, she's like Bishop Scanlon. She's very interested in history and she's on top of it. So that makes my job that much easier. The charter, any histories that have been written about the cathedral. These are some of the breakdown subheadings that you're going to find. Governance, you'll have to find your bylaws. Do you have a strategic plans that you've come up with? Does your parish probably have a mission statement? Committees and commissions. This is something that I got tripped up with here because I was like, what the heck is this? I have no idea. What's a committee? What's a commission? I don't know. That's where you really need to go to your rector and you really need to say, hey, Dean Wellen, I need to put this environmental stewardship somewhere. Where do you want me to put it? So that when we come back, it makes sense and we know where we're going to find it. So here, instead of records of the cathedral dean, I have records of the bishop. the bishops. And we have, going back to the beginning of our bishops, we have documents on our bishops. A couple of our bishops wrote books. I have the books, I have sermons, you name it. Bishop Baxter has a beautiful book that was put together and published after 9/11. So you see, all of these things are falling into place now. If Carolyn is looking for something and she's like, geez, I just don't remember, she's going to be able to access my classification sheet, which is going to be made available to you. Now, one thing I'll say, the diocesan classification sheet is huge and it is detailed. Your parish classification system is not going to be that big. And when I say that mine is detailed, that was simply because I didn't know what some of these things were. And I thought, what is this Appalachian ministry? What is this youth program? What is camp so-and-so? So as I found out, I would just write little notes to myself. So when you access I don't have the cathedral classification system up, but when you look at the diocesan level, this is what you're going to find. It's kind of mind-boggling, but I just recorded as much information as I could to help me and help others when they're looking. So if someone's coming to research archives, this is going to tell them, go up to the archive room, okay, look for a box that says 2021, that's the 4-digit for the year, 0.002, and records of the cathedral. They open the lid of the box and they go through and they're like, okay, 2021.002.02 is the charter. And they go back through the files and they're like, oh my gosh, there it is. And it's that simple. So this is a finding guide, but it has to make sense to you and it has to make sense to your rector. When I started the one at St. Stephen's, I sent it electronically to Amy. Amy shared it with the vestry. You know, you all have to work together. Other categories: finance, ministry, communications, youth and young adults, artifacts, photographs. So again, this is all outlined in this book, and you're going to start, like I said, you're going to start with like a skeleton thing. You're going to say records of the cathedral dean, records of the cathedral, governance, committees and commissions, and here are going to be all these piles. All right, then you're going to start breaking it down, and that should work.
Thank you, Debbie. Believe it or not, we only have a couple minutes left, and I know you've provided us with a list of resources, which again, we're going to make available on the diocesan website along with the video from this webinar. I wonder if you can just talk to us a little bit about these final 2 slides and some of the resources that you're recommending.
Yeah, very quickly, the Pennsylvania State Archives, I have a personal relationship with the folks who work at the Pennsylvania State Archives. Tyler and Josh, and I ask them questions back and forth. They're fantastic. They're very personable. They have in-person workshops. You got to go. They're 2 days and it's worth every minute. The National Episcopal Archives, their archivist I have asked questions of as well. He gets back to me immediately. Also on that website, records management for congregation and archives manual for Episcopal parishes and missions, priceless. These that I've listed under here are available if you want to send me an email. I can send you, if you would like, a copy of this book, which is priceless. I'm going to give you our classification form. I'm going to give you some blank templates, which you can look at, but you don't have to get into the weeds now. So I'm just going to give you those to look at. What should be preserved, a sample of what we have, just in major headings: retention schedule, and this is for finance and administrative records and everything to do with the church, and locate a record, and that is an outline of my actual archive rooms. So it tells you what's in this room and what's in this room. Okay, archival supplies, the king is on top. That's Gaylord Archival. Archival methods, I love. You can go to an art supply store, Michael's. Scrapbooking was very big at one time. I don't know if it is anymore. They're going to have this sort of thing. I'm giving you some ideas of what you, where you might want to reach out. And the supplies to begin, this is important. I'm telling you exactly what sort of things that you're going to need to start. Just remember, acid-free, lignin-free, because if you're looking for long-term storage, you can't use anything else.
Wow. Debbie, did you tell me that this was your first time doing a webinar like this, Debbie?
This is, and you know, I hesitated doing it, but then the more I thought about it was, and Carolyn knows this is true because she was in on this with me. I had no idea what I was doing. When I started here, I didn't even know what a convocation was. So I just have to say, folks, if I did it, you can do it.
Thank you, Debbie. You know, one of the things we say again and again and again to our Shape by Faith teams, we're really looking to put tools in your toolbox. And so I hope that you've left this session tonight with a new tool, especially though, if you're looking to begin that daunting task of archiving and really handling the artifacts of your faith community in an intentional way. We have a tremendous resource in the person of Debbie. And so Debbie, thank you for for compiling this, but also offering to share your learnings and your resources. So again, folks, all those slides, including Debbie's contact info, will be available on our website. I'm grateful to those who were able to join us live tonight. We're gonna be here again next week, next Wednesday evening at 6 o'clock. And I'm excited. We're gonna be joined by Amy Skillman, who is a friend of Carolyn. Carolyn has provided this resource to us. Do you want to talk to us a little bit about Amy and the wisdom that she's going to bring to us next week, Carolyn?
Sure, Chris, thanks. Yes, Amy is an old friend of mine, and I made friends with her when I was part of a story circle for oral history gathering, story gathering with immigrant and refugee women in the Harrisburg area. And she expertly and gently guided us through telling our stories from a point where we were literally just sitting around a conference table for the first few gatherings to being able to mount a full exhibit of our stories and artifacts from our histories and that at the State Museum. And so she is expert. She is a great teacher, and she currently she's not Episcopalian, but I wanted to read you a little bit from her bio that you can actually link to. This description of Amy is why I think that she is a really good professional to be leading us in our story gathering for Shape by Faith. She currently works as the academic director for the MA program in cultural sustainability at Goucher College in Maryland. And here's the first couple sentences of the description in her bio. Amy Skillman works at the intersection of culture and tension, where paying attention to culture can serve to mediate social change. She advises artists and community-based organizations on the implementation of programs that honor and conserve cultural traditions, guides them to potential resources, and develops programs to help build their capacity to sustain these initiatives. And she's done this. She has a BA in cultural minorities and immigrant experience, and MA in folklore and folk life. And one of the projects that she worked on was Grammy nominated. They did a recording of old time fiddlers in Missouri. And she worked with them gathering the stories and doing the liner notes. And they were actually Grammy nominated for that project. So she's had some really interesting experiences. And like I said, she is a great teacher, a great facilitator, and I think that she'll really give us some good resources when she talks next week. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Carolyn. Friends, I hope that some of you will be able to join us again next Wednesday evening, 6 p.m. for an hour with Amy Skillman. Thank you to Carolyn, and a very, very special thank you to you, Debbie, for your wisdom and your preparation for tonight. What a gift to have you as part of the team. Thank you, friends. We'll see you next week, everybody. Have a good night.